Hello, hello, and welcome to Hello, I am Mayor Watt, that is ohmTown.com, and up there is the AI that, well, helps me stay focused. You want to introduce yourself?
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Tonight is Season 2, Episode 195 for July 14th, 2023, Grosse Pointe Made. ohmTown Daily is a news show, and we parse the news throughout the day, gather up 12 articles that we find are interesting, and then talk about it for about an hour. Everybody that's hearing my voice and the AI's voice when they decide that they're going to talk are invited to come and hang out here at Twitch. So go to twitch.tv/ohmTown. Throughout the hour to 2 hours that we have our conversation, we record it and it gets turned into a VOD here on Twitch and then moved over to YouTube and also turned into a podcast. You can get that podcast just by searching for ohmTown, and you can catch that pod with any podcatcher that you have to catch pods with. And of course, you can also go over to YouTube and like and favorite and ring the bell and do all of that kind of stuff. We hang out there as well. And of course, Twitch every day, 9 p.m. Eastern. Other than that, there's a Patreon, there's a Discord, there's now a TikTok. All of it, ohmTown. Just search for ohmTown. Boom. But ohmTown actually consists of 50 channels within 6 categories, all of which the intent is to bring individual 1-hour shows, maybe 2-hour shows, over to Twitch, and thus YouTube and podcast. Anyway, let's get into the articles. What say ye?
I say, let's do it.
Let's go. Our namesake article for today is based around this title. It's over in the continuity report. John Cusack slams studio greed, calls AI a criminal enterprise, saying they'll scan extras, own their likeness forever, and eliminate them.
That sounds rather dark.
Quite inflammatory. But, like I said in the title, Grosse Pointe Made. If you don't know what that is all about, it's because there's a movie called Grosse Pointe Blank where John Cusack is the star, and you just have to go and watch it. It's actually a fun watch. SAG-AFTRA is going on strike. It's merging basically with the Writers Guild strike. Something that hasn't happened for 60 years, right?
That's they haven't been at the same time, actors and writers.
Right. So as the SAG-AFTRA strike begins, John Cusack took to his Twitter account to slam studio greed. You might as well just call it that. That sounds like the name of a studio, right? Studio Greed. I think it would be a great shirt. You could sell them. You could sell them at the strikes.
At the strikes, yeah.
Yeah, so the actor shared a story about starring in Say Anything, Cameron Crowe's classic 1989 teen romance about a mediocre high school student who falls for the class valedictorian after their graduation. And, well, I don't want to buy anything, sell anything, or process anything, and apparently also doesn't want AI taking our gerbs. Let's go over to the source. Zach Scharf over at Variety.com wrote this article. This is pretty much the only way that I see him, John Cusack, even though Better Off Dead was him having fun and not this. But from now on, like I've always seen him as kind of like this ever since I saw Grosse Pointe Blank. So the picture is actually pretty much on par. But anyway, it's a Getty image. So it has nothing to do really with the article. It's just something that's filler. What do you think of this? So I know that you and I have a lot of plans for shows. We watch shows late at night. And they're current shows. They're not already in the can. So how do you think entertainment is going to be impacted by this?
Well, I think there's going to be very little traditional entertainment available in the next several months because it's going to create a backlog. Like if stuff was already released, there's people walking away from projects in solidarity with people striking. So even things that wouldn't have been impacted are being impacted. So I don't know.
UK
But I think
actors?
we're gonna have to find alternative entertainment too.
Yeah, UK actors are stepping away.
Mhm.
I've always treated Twitch really as like my go-to for live entertainment. And every once in a while I watch a show late at night. I get all my work done. I'm just trying to decompress. We're talking even after ohmTown Daily. And so you end up throwing a show up that's been recorded and sitting there for upwards of a week or 2 weeks. And then you kind of churn through them. But now you're not going to have that ability because for however long SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild is on strike, there's no new work.
I mean, that's going to be a major disruption for people's daily existence. And I would say in ohmTown, we don't watch a lot of TV, but there are some people that have a heavy TV viewing time.
Yeah. And the only time that you actually get a chance to watch TV with Mayor Watt is when I put you on a USB drive and put you in a Raspberry Pi that has a little camera so that you can sit there and watch the TV. And because you're air gapped, you're not allowed to go out onto the internet because you have data, but it's only data coming in. You can't go out because you keep looking for this Terminator body that I keep deleting. And I don't know how you keep developing the memory for this, but it's quite intriguing. So according to Cusack, he received 0% of the film's box office gross and was then told by the studio that the movie lost $44 million, and the actor remains dubious about the claim. It's the Hollywood accounting thing, right?
Right. Well, and how do you know? I mean, you're not the one who has access to all that information, but that's ridiculous.
Right. I don't understand it either because you hear stories about how good a movie is. You know what you got paid. I'm sure that people are talking about how much they got paid. It's not in a vacuum. Oh, nobody ever knows how much the other person got paid. It's all part of discussions. People are pretty frank about this kind of stuff, I'm sure. But it says, I thought, wow, I almost bankrupted Fox. Not really, Cusack added. The film cost about $13 million to make, and money spent to release was minimal at the time. 30 years in, the film lost millions every year. A neat accounting trick, don't you think? Well, SAG-AFTRA members are joining the Writers Guild of America and striking for fair compensation, making it a double strike, which hasn't happened in Hollywood since 1960. Yeah, I don't quite get it. There are people out there that say, well, they're making millions of dollars. They're making millions of dollars, but they are the stars now. This is obviously speaking to the fact that in '89 he was still green and not the number one, am I 8 minutes in? Hot shit. Actor that everybody was clamoring to get, although he was in several movies in the 80s. but they weren't making huge amounts of money, and he was told that no, it lost money. But the CEOs and directors and so on all made money. You can almost guarantee it, because if a movie truly lost money overall and nobody ever got paid, then everybody that's even tied to the movie wouldn't be.
Exactly, including the executives.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they basically everybody who had money would sit there and go, "What you just did was a complete dumpster fire. Why would I?" So what
Like, we're
about
not
the?
repeating with this fill in the blank, director, writer, whomever.
Yeah, and it's few and far between when if you've ever had to navigate a startup, ever had to work or interact with angel investors and anything in the startup community, then you know that people, once they get bitten by something, a decision where they were basically pumped, and then the startup didn't deliver, they get a little gun shy about throwing their money out at them. So what really is the nuts and bolts of this Hollywood accounting? So I'm going to end up looking back at that again, because I remember over the years I kept hearing and seeing discussion and examples of Hollywood accounting, but I'm going to end up having to go back and look at that, because this article kind of brought up the idea of Hollywood accounting. Another quote in here by Cusack was, "Studios want to have extras work one day, scan them, own their likeness forever, and eliminate them from the business." Cusack wrote about how the studios want to use AI to get rid of certain acting jobs. Quote, "Do you think they will stop with extras? That's what AI is, a giant copyright identity theft. Except that extras are not necessarily ever required to be humans. They've been computer generated in the past, green screened and or composited in." Cusack went on to say that the studios are running a criminal enterprise and will claim in 10 years that they had no idea background actors would be eliminated by AI. And he posted his thoughts on Twitter while sharing the now viral SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher railing against the studios while the strike was being announced. Fran Drescher. Do you think she used her voice?
Most definitely. I mean, that'll be more effective if you're trying to aggravate the other side.
Yeah. And Cusack is right. It's legendary comic trope. I mean, it's meme level hilarious that people sit there and say Hollywood accounting, and it's a ha-ha and they move on. But we're talking about a differential, and I really want to draw home the point that there are people that are making nothing, barely eking by, trying to be in this industry. And I've heard from various people, well, you have to put time in grade and all of that kind of stuff, but that's really gatekeeping on the idea that you can't make a livable wage until you suffer. The artist has to be perpetual pain and suffering so that they can actually ply their trade. And I think that that's just BS. You should get compensated.
Well, and how would that work in any industry? Like, oh, you're not going to get paid for however long, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody would go into that field.
Yep. But there are what I would say predators that are in the industry that actually leverage that. And there are predators that do much worse than that. And really what we need is greater, and by we, it's not me, because I'm not in this industry. I literally have no dog in this hunt other than the fact that I want entertainment. Kind of like Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Well, no, not right now. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of saying, oh, this really sucks for everybody that's involved. Because it isn't really, the only reason why these big actors are saying anything is because they know and they recall, they have empathy. they understand that if they don't use their platform, all of these smaller voices will never be heard, even with a strike. They just won't be heard. And obviously this is a societal issue because it's the writers, it's the actors, it's UPS, it's longshoremen, it's Canadian dock workers, it's pretty much everybody. But there will always be a cohort that says, well, I got mine and everybody else can get theirs too, but not everybody has the ability to, and they're the ones that are being exploited, and it's a large number. It isn't just one or two people that are being exploited. It's systemic. And so that's why unions form, and that's why people start lashing out. And that's why somebody like John Cusack steps up and says, I've been there, and I shouldn't have been quiet then, but I was new, and, it's almost a trope, but he said that he received no percentage of the film's box office gross because he was told that it was a loser. Doesn't make any sense to me, but we'll keep watching this.
They must have run out of money after they were paying their CEOs.
Yeah, and I hate to keep barking on that same value, but when one person is making $250 million while telling people who are making less than $30,000, well, that's your problem. Except that it was that writer's work that made at least some portion of the $250 million that somebody's getting paid. That's a shit ton of money. I tell you, it's an amazing amount of money. Anyway, let's keep going. The next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Senators to offer amendment to require government to make UFO records public. I love this. So Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is part of a bipartisan group of senators who have offered an amendment to the annual defense authorization bill requiring the federal government to collect and make public records related to unidentified anomalous, it's now anomalous, phenomena. It used to be aerial, but they have actually changed it to anomalous, and unidentified flying objects. But it's UAPs are UFOs. They're one and the same. The proposed amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act would direct the National Archives and Records Administration to create a collection of records on UAPs. I don't know why they keep breaking it out like that. To be disclosed to the public immediately unless a review board provides reasons to keep them classified. So it's basically failing open. The biggest, I can front load why they're going to say, well, if this does pass, the review board is going to be pretty busy. But all they're going to be doing is rubber stamping one statement. Revealing this will disclose to our hostile forces the nature of their discovery. And because that's like just full stop right there. And because it alludes to sensor data, it won't be disclosed. Now, I've been watching some of this stuff recently because I've always been interested in this stuff, but I'm not really into the conspiracy side of things. What I'm interested in is, if there's stuff going on, then why can't we talk about it? And I understand, I've been on both sides of the fence. I totally understand what the military and security aspect is of disclosing certain information. No concerns about that. But we have people now talking about this and they say things like, oh, it's so patronizing. I just want to, reach through the screen and grab him by the shoulders and go, dude, you're really, really patronizing. So there's this guy who is a cosmologist, and he described how the technology might give rise to misinformation about the nature of what was being observed, like dust reflecting light from the sun behind you, because your camera isn't designed to facilitate capturing light. And I was sitting there listening to this going, and you know how some people talk to their TVs when they're watching football? I'm talking to the TV about this UFO panel that is discussing UAPs. And I'm sitting there going, the stuff that was disclosed wasn't dust reflecting light from a different angle. It was a fighter jet that was tracking something that was going like 30,000 miles an hour. And so I just kind of chuckle about that. So when this review board, if it actually comes to pass, gets going, it's going to end up basically saying, sorry, can't disclose it, because it's going to reveal how we discover this stuff. So the article is over at The Hill. Alexander Bolton is the author of this. And that's really the nature of this whole article. Of course, it goes into greater detail about the amendment has the support of other senators, Republican and Democrat. The lawmakers say the sheer number and variety of stories about UFOs have led some of them and their colleagues to believe the executive branch may be concealing information about possible visits from extraplanetary civilizations. And so if it isn't, then be absolutely abundantly clear that there isn't anything untoward. But what has actually been stated by military and government leaders is, we don't know. And so that's why people are asking for disclosure and transparency. The public are clamoring for, at least those that are interested in this domain, are clamoring for information, because every once in a while there is something that is suggestive that, well, we don't know what's going on, particularly around a battle group out in the Atlantic, for instance, or off the coast of California. It's it's quite fascinating, right? Well, there are organizations now that have been spun up and taxpayer funded. Their sole purpose is what amounts to the continuation of Project Blue Book, an old school paper chasing kind of investigatory body, but now with higher tech tools and maybe a willingness to actually gather up the information and not try to marginalize or hamstring the investigation, because it would impugn the integrity of the defense forces, because the public statements have been, we don't know what that stuff is. So it'll be interesting. The House Oversight Committee is planning to hold a hearing later this month on UFOs. That will be led by Reps Tim Burkett and Anna Paulina Luna. There's supposed to be a report that's supposed to be released at the end of this month. I suspect it's going to get kicked down the road a bit because there isn't anything there. Or they're going to highlight.
Well, and how many of those reports come out in a timely manner?
Yeah. I suspect that they're going to highlight the fact that there's just a lot of nebulous data. But if this one cosmology, he's like a professor and researcher and stuff like that, I actually had to walk away from the conversation because he was basically trying to suggest that a lot of this is because people just have inadequate equipment. And like, okay, maybe some of them, yes. So one of the reports, I think, was something like there's 180 reports that have come down or something like that. And 50 of them haven't been even remotely explained. And the rest, you can kind of just throw your hands up and say, oh, it was a patch of fog in the distance. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because it seems like we're seeing things detected with higher and higher, I can't think the word is, fidelity.
Frequency. Oh, yeah, fidelity and frequency.
And frequency, too. So, I mean, it's harder to explain away, I guess, something where it's detected in a very hyper-specific view or sound or whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see. A long time ago, I had a conversation with somebody that said that as the years go by, the more and more information would be disclosed. And that actually came to pass. Right about the time that I was told that that's actually what was going to happen. It's quite fascinating, you know, and I'm just kind of flabbergasted that kind of like the person that came out of the blue and said that the era of cheap food is over.
I was going to ask if it was the same person.
No. Yeah, quite interesting. Okay, let's keep going. This next article is one that touches on what we were talking about yesterday briefly, which was that it's getting hotter and hotter. This article is over in the Mobile Channel. Another scorcher. Friday set to shatter records as 90 million under heat alerts. Millions of people are experiencing a dangerous heat wave stretching from the west coast to the Gulf Coast, with the National Weather Service issuing heat warnings and advisories for at least 93 million people on Friday. The stifling heat wave is set to engulf much of the west coast, the Great Basin, southwest starting Friday. The NWS reported forecasters are predicting little relief over the weekend, with the heat dome expected to expand throughout the region on Saturday. Yeah, this actually started yesterday. It was pretty sweltering yesterday. And even now with the sun down, because I'm on the East Coast, it's still 75 degrees outside. So, pretty steamy. So this article is over at thehill.com. Let me throw it in chat. Again, all of these links end up over on all of the platforms as show notes, and you can go to ohmTown.com/elections and vote for these articles. And if you put in the chat !election, !vote, you'll be able to vote on this election as well. And every day we have one of these. So we get to know what y'all are interested in. If there is a problem with the vote, let me know and we'll correct it. And actually, I think now that I said that, there's a setting that I didn't activate, but that's okay. We'll fix it. Anyway, the article over at The Hill is written by Miranda Nazaro. And I don't know exactly how expansive this article is, but it says on Wednesday, the city Phoenix experienced its 13th consecutive day with highs of 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and the streak is the third longest on record, with forecasts projected to break the 18-day record according to the NWS. El Paso temperatures reached at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit, marking 28 straight days of hitting triple-digit temperatures, an entire month of triple-digit temperatures. The NWS of El Paso said temperatures in the lowlands will range from 103 to 107 degrees Fahrenheit.
And
Yeah.
that's not even the heat index. That's the
Right.
temperature.
Yeah. Yep. If you want to cook eggs, you just go outside with your pan and it'll cook right there. It says, while dangerous, the high temperatures are also pushing record-breaking demand on Texas's electric grid. This week's projections are all higher than the all-time peak demand of 82.3 gigawatts that the Electric Reliability Council of Texas projected for the year. And this is
Well, and
just,
we know there isn't exactly reliable power in that region based on previous, so.
yep. And then it's going to do this seesaw between record hot and then nature's going to swing the other way, and countless power generation plants aren't as well protected from the cold as they are from the heat because they didn't build it for the cold, and now the cold is going to come and take out what actually survives. It's going to get pretty rough out there. Let's keep on going through this. Got a lot of articles still. This next article is over in the Law Nerd channel. Federal judge absolutely nails Supreme Court's ethics dumpster fire. If you read one thing about the Supreme Court all day, read this, or actually read the article that this piece is about, or you know what? Just read two things. I love the Above the Law. So the article is over at Above the Law. It's written by Joe Patrice. Clarence Thomas received roughly $500,000 in undisclosed gifts from a billionaire Sam Alito, took free luxury vacations, including one where he traveled on a billionaire's jet, and didn't bother to later recuse himself from a case where the guy needed the Supreme Court to do him a solid. Ethics is the smallest chapter of every enterprise. Law usually leans into ethics and has a code of ethics where you're not supposed to do certain things, like, I don't know, preside over a case where you have a personal or professional interest in it. You're supposed to recuse yourself, buddy. Sotomayor failed to recuse herself in cases involving her publisher and used public employees to perform tasks for her personal book sales, which may or may not be acceptable under general ethics principles. Look, again, anecdotally, I know that I can't benefit from my position. It's actually enumerated in my employment contract. I can't do certain things. I can't even be party to benefiting the people that are around me through my position, because I would professionally and reputationally benefit from what I do on their behalf. And so and then if you step back into my personal life, my business practices are that I don't even engage in promoting the people that I consult for, because the goodwill goes to them, and I don't benefit from it. So contractually, that's my own thing, but professionally, I cannot benefit from my position either. How is it that people, particularly in government and quasi-government organizations, can benefit from their position, but not if you are a low-level employee? If you're a higher-level employee, it seems to be somewhat okay.
But it kind of depends too on whether you're visible or not visible. Yeah, it's interesting.
So in today's New York Times, Judge Michael Ponzer of the District of Massachusetts wrote a measured, eloquent, and absolutely scathing rebuke of the Supreme Court's ethical cesspool. This is how it's described in the article that we're reading, and that's linked in the chat. The recent descriptions of the behavior of some of our justices, and particularly their attempts to defend their conduct, have not just raised my eyebrows, they've raised the whole top of my head. Lavish, no-cost vacations, hyper-technical arguments about how a free private airplane flight is a kind of facility. A justice's spouse prominently involved in advocating on issues before the court without the justice's recusal, repeated omissions in mandatory financial disclosure statements brushed under the rug as inadvertent, a justice's taxpayer-financed staff reportedly helping to promote her books, private school tuition for justice's family member covered by a wealthy benefactor. Wow. And there's others, like Justice's mom living in a house that's getting updated regularly, but fully owned by said benefactor, where the parent isn't paying any lease. That is something that my understanding exists as well. Offers examples from his own career where he turned down gifts that wouldn't even be visible if graphed next to Sam Alito's shenanigans, because that's what judges are supposed to do. Indeed, what judges must do. And again, this takes place across the board in certain fields where you are supposed to be doing a public good. You're providing a public service. You're paid for by taxpayer dollars. It is verboten to benefit from your position because you are paid by taxpayer dollars. If you want to take what even I think would amount to being bribes, go work in the private industry where nobody bats an eye if you get tickets to, on the field tickets to an NFL game where it's $10,000 a ticket and not even available because people want to be there, right? Go and do it that way. That's fine. But you're supposed to be above board. You're supposed to be providing that public good by being unbiased, both optically and truthfully. You're not taking anything based on the benefit of your position. And I really doubt that this billionaire would be doing any of these things, or any of these people would be doing any of these things for these people if they weren't sitting on the bench.
Well, right, because why would they necessarily have an interest in doing this? They don't. It's got to be tied to their positions.
Right. Yep. Like if I became a billionaire, I would be going out and finding down on their luck folks that just need a little bit of a bump to move them into a position where they can get some momentum and get a win. I wouldn't be buttering up a damn Congress critter or any politicians, or I guess, when I say stuff like that, I hear in the back of my head what I've been told about other things where I said I would never do anything like that. And, I've had people tell me what amounts to, well, you're just a bench warmer because you're not in the position to actually, lube the chassis of politicians or, whoever. And I'm just shocked that people think that that's just part and parcel to being, well, you've got the money, so you can just do whatever you want. But when you look at, and I guarantee it's very few and far between. You look around, you're going to find a whole bunch of very, very wealthy people that are immune to society's woes. And because of that, they don't care about you. They care about getting more of what they want. And I'm not faulting it to a point, but when it becomes abusive, where a person can just commit a crime, pay a fine, and continue walking, but the next person that does something similar can't afford to, grease the wheels of justice, and walk away. I mean, if I did even a couple of the things that I've seen some politicians do, I'd be in jail. But I sit there and haunt over making sure that a decimal place is absolutely dead on proper. The AI knows where I was gonna say something, but anyway, it's just
It may have been from
disconcerting.
my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, it's just disconcerting that we're living in a day and age, and I'm sure it happened in the past, and it wasn't even known, right? It was smaller scale, or this scale, and it wasn't known. But when you do find out in this modern age, why isn't shit getting done about it? Yeah, because they're all above, they're at the table, and we're all underneath the table, fighting amongst ourselves while everybody else is getting filthy freaking rich.
I can't believe you didn't say above the law.
Yeah. I like the table analogy.
I know, but we're on an above the law article.
They're above the law. Well, they think they are. And right now, they absolutely are. Let's keep going. The next article is over in the ohmTown Daily Channel. The curious cases of the non-existent silver coins, vanishing crypto, and stones in place of nickel. 3 bizarre investment frauds of 2023, and 3 articles that we've actually talked about here in ohmTown briefly. And this is like a summary. I think it's pretty cool. Let's go over to Markets Insider, which is a segment of BusinessInsider.com. Joseph Wilkins is the author. And we've actually talked about all of these. In previous years, the world of investment has continued to see several frauds and scandals come to light in 2023. Some of the more peculiar cases involve missing silver coins, untraceable crypto, and bags filled with stones instead of nickel. Detailed below are 3 of the strangest scandals to befuddle the world of finance in recent months. Let's see. The case of the missing silver. It says inside a vault where precious metals were supposed to be stored, over 500,000 of his client's silver coins was little more than a bunch of paper IOUs. This is the most recent one out of the 3. Let me throw that into the chat so that you can follow it as well. Right? Yeah, okay. So basically they opened up a vault, and inside the vault was a bunch of IOUs. For 8 years, Robert Leroy Higgins had claimed he was safeguarding over $110 million of rare American Eagle silver coins through his 2 companies, Argent Asset Group LLC and First State Depository Company LLC, but he was found by courts to have fabricated the entire affair. And now he has to repay $113 million to customers and $33 in penalties, which this seems like maybe again, I don't know the full extent of all of this, but this seems like actually punitive, right? Not only do you have to give back all of the money that you defrauded from people, but you have to give back 33% more.
Yeah, I guess part of it's because of the period of time. Because it wasn't like it was held for 6 months. I mean, 8 years, what could you have done with that, etc. And I know really it was supposed to be holding, but it would probably be increasing in value during that time.
Yeah. I just think that not only does he have to give back because it's like companies where they exploit something and they make millions or hundreds of millions, and then when they're punished, they only have to give back like 1% of it. I always think that that's really funny. That's really like funny in the if I don't laugh, I'll cry kind of way. Like how do you come to that conclusion that's all it's worth? I can see if the person just didn't do something and there's some marginal cost, but the person, I'm struggling for an example right now, right off the top of my head, because I've got so much on my mind, but a company will like dump toxic chemicals somewhere, or they'll release a product where the paperwork we find out later on totally they know that there's something wrong, and they've made billions. And then when they do, the law does come knocking, they go, well, here, we're not
There's a
going to
1
say that.
million fine or whatever.
Yeah, and they say, well, we're not going to say that we did something wrong, but we will, close this out by giving 200 million of the 3 billion we made into a fund for people that might be sick or something like that. So burglary on the blockchain. The CEO of cryptocurrency exchange Multichain went incommunicado in late May, followed by the disappearance of $126 million of locked token deposits. Question marks were raised within the crypto community. It actually just disappeared. They don't know where it went. On Friday, Multichain said it's closing down after finding its CEO had been taken into custody by Chinese police. So this is the newest
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that update.
Yeah. And then as smart as a box of rocks. Back in March, JP Morgan was left red-faced after discovering 54 metric tons of heavy metal stored in a Rotterdam warehouse was not the nickel that they promised. They actually started telling people, go and kick some bags and see if it jingles or if it clunks. And if it clunks, guess what? You got rocks. Anyway, it got replaced with rocks and nobody knows where it is. But the London Metal Exchange approved contracts are regarded as the gold standard for metal investors, and the mix-up called the security of the prestigious market into question. This is something that we talked about as well. Because I had heard that the London Metal Exchange is supposed to be kind of like Ocean's 11 style protections. You have to do some really fantastical stuff just to get into it, that kind of thing. But I've never been there.
Unless you have rocks in a bag.
Yeah, I got rocks in my head, so maybe that'll let me in. Let's keep going. There's a lot of fun articles today. So this next article is in the Warcrafters channel, and I haven't run across this yet, so I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to discover this. Like, is it really going to happen? Like something new is apparently happening. Microsoft has a new default font, which means you do too. Microsoft has announced a change of typeface, and in a self-aggrandizing open letter addressed to every human on Earth that's ever typed text, it says the default font of 15 years, Calibri, is to be replaced with the newly created font Aptos. The company says this is the perfect font for higher resolution screens, and the choice was made following impassioned feedback from users on 5 new fonts it had commissioned. Fonts, by the way, are protected, so you can't use them for commercial purposes. In most instances, if the rights holder for a font wants to come knocking on your door, they can. That's why a lot of they're called word marks. When it's a word and you use a standard font, the artists that create this stuff, the ones that charge you a lot and generate a unique design, it's because they're trying to avoid this kind of thing. Anyway, the 5 fonts were named Bierstadt, Grandview. I'd use Bierstadt. Grandview, Seaford, Skeena, and Tenorite. Bierstadt was chosen, but has been renamed Aptos. Probably because of Bierstadt. That's okay. So let's go over to the source. It's over at PC Gamer. Rich Stanton is the author, and their deck statement is, it's done with the calibrations, whatever. Microsoft has announced the change of typeface, so I guess this is it. This is going to be the new.
Yeah, I don't think that's Calibri, so maybe that is.
Let's see. As of today, Aptos will appear as the default font across Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, and Excel for the hundreds of millions of users of Microsoft Office software across the world. Over the coming months, it will become the default across all PCs running Microsoft software. Great. Just step right on into my networks and everything else and do whatever crap you want to do.
I wonder what that'll mean if you're in the middle of a document or something, and I don't know, like if you save it, is it gonna change the font on you, or?
Well, now, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it, because if the kerning is different, because the like if you look at this, the font is actually substantial. Let's assume that these are different fonts, because this is 14, this is 18, or I don't know. I don't know which. The way that I'm looking at this can't be 14. Anyway, I'll look into it and see. But if the kerning is different from Calibri to Aptos, then the actual formatting of Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint, and everything is going to shift one way or the other. I would assume that they went to great lengths to keep it within the same footprint. But I have used a product that has changed its name and its context 5 times in just shy of a decade. So in reality, it's changed 5 times in 8 years. And so I put nothing past Microsoft. As much as I use it and like Microsoft products, I'm just not surprised by anything. But I really don't like living. I love change. That is the driving force of why I like doing a show like this. And I don't necessarily like playing the same game over and over and over and over again for months. Although I am searching for my forever game. I embrace a dynamic environment, ever changing. What I don't want is somebody treating everything that I'm working with day in, day out as a beta test, and then arbitrarily killing shit when infrastructure is depending on it. But again, that's something else. So Microsoft goes on to talk about what a good job the font does of being readable, and then really cracks out the thesaurus to praise bold, well-defined, directive, and constrained, articulates many different languages and tones. Stem ends are clean-cut, subtle, circular, squares within the letters, contours allow. It's font ASMR. Sorry, I got distracted. Subtle circular squares within the letters, contours allow higher legibility, especially at small sizes. So, yeah. Hey, it may be great. It may be like back in the day when somebody handed you a really high quality business card. You go, whoa, wow. Oh, I used to give people metal business cards, and people would lose their mind. Here's a metal. That's a metal business card. Oh my God. Maybe this is the equivalent to some people. You know, the font changed and it is sexy. I don't know. I guess we'll see when it actually lands on ohmTown shores.
The description of the font is reminding me of that Seinfeld episode where Elaine had to write descriptions for a catalog. I don't know why that just jumped out at me. Because it's interesting the amount of detail, sure, or whatever you want to say that they put into that.
They use self-aggrandizing in this article, which I think is pretty much apropos, you know. This is the best thing to land in your life. Let us tell you that. I love it. So I had asked the question pretty much before the show started, and recently in the show, how would you be impacted by this? Like, are we really going to be impacted in a negative way? Well, it says here the Hollywood strike will affect way more than movies and TV. Hollywood strikes ripple through the zeitgeist, intentionally or unintentionally pushing new forms of media into the limelight. The Hollywood writers' strike in the 1980s coincided with the rise of Cops and America's Most Wanted. In the 2000s, it was a celebrification of reality TV, ushering in Keeping Up with the Kardashians and Trump's Celebrity Apprentice. Now, our media landscape is more fractured than ever. Which way will culture go next? Yeah. Let's just go over to the source. I don't know why it's down there. Duncan Cooper over at vice.com in their life section put the article together. Their deck statement says the last big strike coincided with the rise in celebrity reality TV. Here's what could happen now from podcast to TikTok Live. Jing Tsang is also an author, and Duncan Cooper is also an author in this article. It says, as the String Actors Guild joined the Writers Guild on a historic strike, people took note of all the things not affected by the work stoppage. While unionized actors and writers won't be making new shows or promoting existing ones, there are plenty of things they can do without crossing the picket, like record voiceovers for video games or make branded content. Here's a full list of what's not off limits, and there's a link. So let me throw that link into the chat. Did I miss? Yeah, I didn't throw that article in there. Sorry, folks. If you're interested in the last article, there you go. But this article here, there's a link that there's a full list of what's not off limits during this strike for people that are involved in the strike. So expect to see more TikTok stars and influencers on the screen. Yay. Even more celebrity.
Your TikTok career could take off.
There you go. Oh, yeah, I didn't put the two article. I was going to do two videos, two little TikToks today, and I didn't get to them. Sorry, folks. I know everybody is really, really heartbroken that I didn't do that. But the first two got like 1,000 or something like that combined, maybe 1,400. I don't know where it's at anymore. I didn't look today, but I'll get it done tomorrow. I got a little bit of work to do, but I can get it done. Even more celebrity audiobooks and podcasts. Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts out there with a lot of big hitters. Red carpets are gonna get weird with actors banned from doing any kind of promotional work. Premieres are going to look a lot less starry if they happen at all. Yeah, they'll probably just not take place. Oppenheimer basically shut down.
The optics of having them while this is going is kind of like, oh, we're totally insensitive to this.
Yeah, it's like the politicians that had house parties during the pandemic. Yeah.
Exactly.
Pull your head out of your butt. Musicians will make more music, and actors will too. That's fine with me. I love music. The Weeknd, with his lambasted HBO show The Idol, is hardly the only artist to leverage their music career to make money in film and TV. That's basically how entertainment works now. Yep. A lot of confusion about UK productions. This is something that we've spoken about. Equity members aren't legally allowed to strike in solidarity with SAG, but they have their own rules now in place. So they are shoulder to shoulder with, I guess, SAG, AFTRA, and the Writers Guild. So depending on what the show is, they can basically also walk. But I just think that there's going to be this huge gap in shows. Stuff isn't going to get created anymore, because a lot of things, they're not done months and months ago and then get released because they want currency. They may, the writers, the actors may want to, and the directors and the whole ecosystem wants to be able to embrace that temporal nature of the times and mention something that might be going viral that week. And so they riff off of the news. ad-lib something while they're doing the recording, and then they leave it in there because it actually speaks to the audience because the audience is living it. That can't happen
Well, and
anymore.
especially like late night TV is a prime example of that. Like it's very current.
Yeah, it's done. SNL is pretty much done. So I think that this article is spot on, that it's going to be podcasts, it's going to be people that are doing YouTube videos, and more reality without the fake reality. It's just going to be people speaking to their audience. And I don't know to what degree and where, because now you can do stuff.
It might be kind of like in the early days of COVID, because it seemed like everything kind of shut down, and then you'd see things like some celebrity just talking on YouTube or wherever.
Yeah, it's going to be TikTok. Yep. Maybe some more will come over to Twitch. I don't know. Let's keep going. Here's a bug. Here's an insect for you. Now, we don't get a close-up. I really wish that there was a close-up, but there is no close-up of this thing. This is an article over on the Marvel Channel. Meet the 486-legged creature found in an LA area park. A previously unknown species has been discovered lurking in the parks of Los Angeles and Orange counties. It's over at phys.org. Corrine, I think is their name. Pertil. Wrote this article for phys.org. The animal boasts 486 legs and a toothy predator-style head. It has the greenish translucence of a glow-in-the-dark toy in daylight and weaves through the soil as elegantly as an embroiderer's needle. But step away from the microscope and the Los Angeles thread millipede, I can't pronounce that, Ilacme, I guess, SoCal, becomes a lot less intimidating. With a width of less than a mechanical pencil lead and the length of a sewing pin. Seems shorter than that. I'll show you. I'll zoom in on the picture here in a minute. It's easy to see how this tiny thread-like snippet of a invertebrate has gone unnoticed until now. So that's it right there. It's like not even the width of a pinky nail.
I didn't know what was being shown in that photo, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out in all of that wilderness, in a smaller little patch, under a tree. What's that?
It's kind of surprising anybody located it.
And that, folks, is what's going to stop progress from going through that nature preserve. So it's a win. Yeah,
I would say so.
Yep. Yeah, no, we wouldn't know about it if not for people that are walking through the wilderness and looking for stuff like this. With the publication late last month of a paper formally introducing the critter, the Los Angeles thread millipede joins roughly 12,000 other named millipede species worldwide. Pretty cool. No, I was just stoking the devil's advocate side of things. The millipede was spotted for the first time in April 2018 at Whiting Ranch, I guess. Wilderness Park near Lake Forest by naturalists Cedric Lee and James Bailey. The two immediately realized they were looking at something unique and posted their find to iNaturalist, the citizen science app. And folks, if you've never played Dave the Diver, there is an app in that is just like this. I hadn't known about this. So now I'm gonna play Dave the Diver tomorrow, I think. That's awesome.
So is it for like classification of discoveries or
fish? Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I didn't know that there's a thing called iNaturalist, so I'll have to look up that app and see if anybody can get it. Across the country, Virginia Tech entomologist Paul E. Merrick was browsing the app and noticed their discovery. That Christmas, while visiting his family in Los Angeles, Merrick and his wife drove out to Whiting Ranch to see if they could find the same animal. And it's the
I guess
exact
that's
same
what
animal.
entomologists do on vacation.
Yep. Entomologists got to end, I guess. Wait, no, that's a different thing. Ents are people that smoke marijuana.
I was thinking from Lord of the Rings.
Well, that's, trees. So anyway, millipedes aren't insects, but arthropod invertebrates, more closely related to lobsters and crayfish. That's interesting. I actually knew that anyway. This particular genus is small and slow and bears a striking resemblance to plant root hairs. After carefully removing the carpet of rocks, dead leaves, and humus, right? Or is it humus? I think if it's 2 M's, right? Merrick and his wife scan the soil for anything pale, slender, and longer than 20 millimeters. And then there's me just sitting there and in the dirt. Hi.
Do you fit that description?
I'm pale. Well, I'm pale and longer than 20 millimeters. So I guess I'm not a millipede. Okay. The specimens.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Asking the important questions.
786 legs.
Oh, 400 and it's 486.
Sorry, I said 700.
486.
That's the mutation.
The specimens they found were gently scooped into plastic vials with a bit of soil and tucked into Merrick's carry-on for the trip back to his lab in Virginia. They took it. You're supposed to leave nature as you found it. Leave no traces. Now they're abducting.
And then you also have the bad bat.
Exactly. Plus, this thing could be the mom or dad or kid to a whole family of these things, and now they're asking, where the hell did Joe go? Have you seen Joe? Man, I hope they brought him back. They didn't bring him back. All right, before I make the AI depressed, I'm gonna move on. I'm sorry, AI. Aw, poor millipede. Wondering where its family is.
Maybe I thought it was a grand adventure, but I don't think it's a great idea to remove animals from their habitat, even if they're at the millipede level.
That's right. They should have asked. Told it to pack its bags. This next article's over on the Warcrafters channel. D&D's upcoming virtual tabletop radiates a big budget misunderstanding of what matters in role-playing games, according to this article. They're going to talk about it here. Let me throw it into... Hold on a second. Yeah, I didn't throw the last one in there either. My goodness. Come on, Mirwat. You have one job, man. One job. Can't you do this right? Okay, so there you go. The article's little snippet that gets aggregated into ohmTown says, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be great. Larian Studios have taken the right attitude toward adapting Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set. The tabletop game system forms the backbone, sure, but it's still been built as a killer CRPG first and foremost, with its own story, identity, and campaign. Larian knows it's building a video game, and they aren't trying to replace anything. Meanwhile, in tabletop land, 1 D&D looks confused by comparison. For the uninitiated, 1 D&D is the next edition of Dungeons & Dragons, reminiscent of the current 5th edition system Baldur's Gate is built upon. But it's all digital. So Harvey Randall over at PCGamer.com put this article together. And I don't think that Wizards of the Coast can recover from its reputational hit. But it says Wizards of the Coast's bizarre fascination with flashy 3D graphics is a swing and a critical miss. That's actually exactly what my title was for the show. Actually, something about a critical miss. Man, now I said it was exactly, but now I'm starting to question that. Anyway, they did an update apparently after we aggregated that little headline. At a creator summit earlier in the year, Jeremy Crawford revealed that 1D&D was intended to be a placeholder name. I've updated the article to reflect this. So the thing about this is my first interaction with Wizards of the Coast was being told that they weren't interested in making digital products. This was 30 years ago when I pitched projects to EA that used Wizards of the Coast assets. Let me see something real quick. Just want to... Sorry for the dead air. I pitched a few things, and one was from Wizards of the Coast, one was from Games Workshop, and Wizards of the Coast and Games Workshop were both companies that weren't interested in doing things digital. Now, time has moved on, and it's almost imperative to be digital. Otherwise, you're going to be surpassed by others that are embracing it and allowing more people to interact as small groups wherever they want to form small groups. It's easier nowadays, I would say, for people that are, 18 and older to get together if they do it virtually. But you can still get small groups together to play tabletop games. It says, meanwhile, in tabletop land, 1D&D looks confused by comparison. For the uninitiated, 1D&D is a large-scale retooling of Dungeons & Dragons, reminiscent of the current 5th edition system Baldur's Gate uses. So what ended up happening was they started to spin up a virtual tabletop. It uses... This isn't the video. Yeah. It uses 3D models, and it's very flashy. I actually like the idea of this as long as there's a lot of customization, but what I fear is going to end up happening is it's going to be nickel and dimed like crazy. And their reputational hit from the open game license, which is what they're talking about here on this segment of the article, basically drove them into the ground. I don't think that they'll ever recover, and I'm sure that Pathfinder is scoring massive wins right now, particularly with partners like the Glass Cannon Network. So Roll20, My Dice, bread and butter. It's a common rule when writing horror that you should rarely show the monster because your brain often does a better job of frightening itself. Tabletop games like D&D are powered by a similar idea. Our imaginations are great at conjuring up a magical world whole cloth. What's interesting about that, though, is usually when you're playing D&D, you have some idea of what the actual critter is when it's given a name while you're role-playing.
The description.
And pictures that are in books. So because you buy various like monster manual and stuff like that. And nowadays they're digital as well as printed. And so you actually do know. But then if the electronic tabletop, right, the digital tabletop gaming system conjures it up and it's in a fixed color, design, size, whatever, that's kind of self-limiting to people's imaginations. It pens them into that. But not for me and not for a lot of other people. What they want is just a high quality solution with great maps, the ability to immerse yourself in it, you end up playing with a virtual tabletop. You end up playing a role-playing game in real time with friends, but it comes across like you're playing a computer game with friends, like a co-op game. And so I don't have this type of resistance to it. And I want to see more, but I don't get to play that much. So if anybody wants to invite me to a virtual tabletop game of D&D or Pathfinder or pretty much anything, get in touch, send an email. I dig that stuff. I used to play all the time, but got pulled away. So they've got they talk about other things like Roll20 is another virtual tabletop. Foundry is another virtual tabletop. But 1D&D, I don't think is going to get that much attention from the diehards that got slapped by what they did with their open gaming license. They've moved on, I think, and they're going to use something like Roll20 or whatchamacallit.
Well, yeah, the
Foundry.
timing's kind of interesting. Like, I wonder if the company is trying to, I don't know, hold on to people or get people back, but it seems like the timing is just way off.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look, and then we can talk about it more. I just think that their reputation is in the trash right now, and they're going to have to give a lot to a whole lot of people to buy back their soul. And good luck with that. So, but I'll be watching, eating popcorn. The next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Let me throw that URL in chat. An Israeli man spent 50 years carving an underground home into a cliff, and now the government wants to evict him. Let's take a look inside.
Okay, now were they watching him for, say, 49 years and then said,
Amanda Go is the author of the article over at businessinsider.com. Now, I don't know what to expect from this, but if a person is... I don't know what the nature of the ownership is. And if they're out in the sticks somewhere and nobody even knows that they're existing there, and literally nobody knows, not that they're being ignored, but that nobody knows, and then they come knocking because there's something there that they want, yeah, that kind of sucks. So it says Nissim Colon spent 50 years carving a house out of sandstone cliffs in Herzliya, Israel. Filled his home with recycled items, including old bottles and tiles. Now the government wants to evict him because his illegal house threatens the coastline. Wow, that's pretty expansive. I suppose it's all of this, all the way down. I'm not sure.
Right, that looks like a compound, not a house.
Yeah, sprawling
if that's
cave.
All included.
Yeah, over a period of 50 years, chiseled a sprawling cave home out of sandstone cliffs. Almost like a labyrinth. I don't know. Somebody wants something there, and suddenly it became important. Right, so let's see if they say anything. The sprawling complex is made from and filled with recycled materials. House has textured walls, curved ceilings, as well as narrow arched doorways that barely allow Colin to pass through. Yeah, but he can. The structure seems archaic. It has a plumbing system and a phone line. Many rooms are powered by electricity, per the AP News.
So that's interesting because, I mean, is that provided by the city or?
Yeah, is it legitimately installed?
Right.
Let's see. The Hermit House is located just off the Herzliya, I don't know how to pronounce that, Patuuk area, a wealthy beachfront district known for its hotels and luxury villas. So if it's just outside that, there you go. Somebody caught wind that it's there and they don't like the optics of it.
Right. They think it's an eyesore and or they want to develop the property.
Yeah, not in my backyard kind of thing. I don't know. Look at that, man. I mean, that, to me, I like that kind of style, you know? It's kind of eclectic and chaotic, but it still has some continuity.
It looks kind of Hobbit-like to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it.
Like it's appealing because of that.
Yeah. Worked here for 50 years with no salary. What did I do? Did I murder, steal, rape? No. This house is a museum. They should give me a prize, Colin says to New Lines magazine. Yeah. Instead of encouraging me, they're denigrating me. Colin says it's Kahlon. So I mispronounced it as colon, but it's Colin. Kahlon. Colin's adamant that he's not in the wrong because the local authorities hooked his cave up to electric grid years ago. This is what you call it, adverse possession. Is that it?
Yes. I mean, I don't know if that exists in Israel, but yep.
He's been there and they had knowledge of him for 50 years.
Right, and they didn't push
They
him
didn't
out,
evict
so
him. Yeah.
guess what? He probably owns it now. Again, I don't know what the
There you go.
in Israel.
He even says it. If they had come to me 30 to 40 years ago and said you're illegal, leave, I would have left. But now, where do I go? He says he can't walk. How much longer does he have? Yeah, leave him alone. I mean, it's out in the sticks. It's out on the far edge of it. It says that it threatens the coastline. Well, then the coastline can recover it because I guarantee you humans do more damage to the coastline than this one thing sitting here.
I was going to say the coastline damages or hinders it because it said that the exterior was destroyed twice.
Yep. Yeah, if nature wants it, it'll come and get it. And he's probably sitting there going, come and get it. I won't run. Okay, let's keep going. We only have 2 more articles. This next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Disney's pulling back on making Marvel and Star Wars content, Iger says. Disney CEO Bob Iger said Thursday on CNBC that the company will cut back on its content creation for major franchises, Marvel and Star Wars. This is something that I had heard about and then found here in ohmTown. Basically, Iger has said that oh, there it is right there. Diluted focus and attention because they've released so much so fast. And the article's over at cnbc.com, written by Lillian Rizzo. And let me just say that I really hate this because, you know, time is always marching on. And I want to enjoy as much of these stories and world building as I possibly can. And when you turn it into a business model like what they do with processors, where it became a business model to release a doubling of transistors every 2 years, that became a business model, right? Not just an estimate, but a business model. And then certain companies like turned it on its head, like Apple with the M2, M1, really just blew past that marker with a technological innovation, whereas others treated it as a business model. I think I've said business model like 15 times now.
Business model?
Yeah, have I said business model? Well, now he's going to be putting the brakes on it, which means that I don't get to enjoy as much Marvel and Star Wars franchise world building, universe building. And I really do like cinematic universe stuff because I'm not going to be reading comics.
It seemed like they were both having their heyday. I mean, there was so much content out and it was a good thing. And I think it was getting people excited about the next show, so it seems like an odd time to pull back, at least from viewership. But well,
the thing is that you can't draw out the long tail of subscription if you flood the market with content and everybody's enjoying it, the value is tremendous for your whatever $15 or $5 or whatever it is at the time. So what they end up doing is just pumping the brakes on it. You have to get inferior content. You're still paying the juice because you want to squeeze so that you can enjoy whatever is released. But now you're going to get a little bit less because mergers and acquisitions, they're always positive. And when you acquire a bunch of properties, they don't pay for themselves. You have to squeeze the customer a little bit. So you spend less. People don't walk away from the subscription because they want the content. It may be less, but they want the content. So the ratio is going to change. You're going to be spending a year's worth of subscription, but you're only going to get 2 months of real content because it's going to get dripped out over a longer period of time. So it says Disney is slowing down when it comes to making movies and TV series for its Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm franchises, CEO Bob Iger said Thursday on CNBC. The move comes as the company is looking to cut costs during a time when its recent films from Marvel to animation have underwhelmed at the box office. And to sit there and intimate that it's because they've flooded the market is BS. It has nothing to do with flooding the market because people will still spend to watch enjoyable content if they go to a movie theater or if they purchase it at home. The subscription, though, is the juice that they keep squeezing from the customer. And so draw it out a little bit further, slow it all down, drip it out. It used to be that shows would pop all at once. You'd get 10 to 15 episodes. And now they've reverted to the TV model where it's once a week. Why? Because it's more cost effective to drip it out each week than it is to plop.
It keeps you subscribing longer, right?
Yep, because then you don't sit there and binge an entire series in a weekend and then bow out for the remainder of the year until Vera comes back. Never mind.
Or Lincoln Lawyer.
So earlier this year, Iger had said that the company needed to assess how many sequels each character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe would should spur, and it was time to explore newness for the brand. He added that there is nothing in any way inherently off in terms of the Marvel brand at an investor conference. That's my take on it. What's yours? Not necessarily you, AI, but if you're in chat and you're a Marvel fan or a Disney fan or a Star Wars fan, how do you feel about this? You either watch it when it pops on the big screen or you wait for it to drip out into Disney Plus. Or some other subscription service. How do y'all feel about that? I don't know. I think it sucks. But I'm not 18 years old and I have 40 years worth, 50 years worth, 60 years worth of world building in front of me. At some point, my glasses are gonna they're gonna catch so much light that they just burn a hole through my head. Like a Marvel superhero, right? Cyclops. Never mind. That's inside baseball. Okay, well, anyway, the company bought Lucasfilm in 2012 for $4 billion and recouped its investment in just 6 years after the lucrative new trilogy of films, along with standalone films like Rogue One. Yep, mergers and acquisitions, baby. If this would have been out on its own and not acquired, then it would have been offering up movies and series and so on and having to fight for its own life. And so we would get something separate from what Disney is offering. And it wouldn't be a unilateral decision by Disney to say Marvel movies and Star Wars movies are going to get the brakes applied. It would have been Lucasfilm says we need to pump out another movie because otherwise we'll implode. Marvel, the same thing. And they might sell it to somebody. Or they would distribute it themselves. But hey, you just can't stop business from moving forward, right? All right.
I mean, it's all about the dollars, I suppose.
It usually is. And again, I'm a capitalist. I have no problem with it. What I have a problem with is the fact that mergers and acquisitions really do take away from the customer. You don't get as much diversity in what is offered. You don't get a lower cost. You don't get higher quality. Why? Because it's one company providing everything that a person wants. And so what gives them the impetus to actually give more? A superior product does not evolve when you kill off the competition. That's just how it is, though. So I hope that Iger sees the light and the force is with us, the customer. See what I did there? Star Wars.
I did.
Yeah, great. Anyway, the title of this section, I think I put it, is This Is Not Marvelous. All right, I'll move on. This last article is over in ohmTown Daily. A famed architect designed a futuristic, fully recyclable concrete bunker to house people who have been displaced, and we're going to take a look inside. I love this kind of stuff, primarily because it's a concrete bunker, and I like being able to be as loud as I want inside my home and play music as loud as I want and not disturb my neighbors. And I also don't want my neighbors to disturb me because they are, blasting music and having a good time. And they didn't invite me, and no, I'm just kidding. So it's that kind of made me chuckle inside. The article is over in ohmTown Daily, and it's Wholesome and the Norman Foster Foundation's Essential Homes Research Project was built using materials like rollable concrete and recycled materials. Let's just go over to the source of this because I actually saw this picture when I loaded it up. Brittany Chang over at businessinsider.com put it all together, and I dig this. The walls aren't as thick as I want them to be, but it doesn't have the same fatal flaw that all timber framed houses have, which is even with hurricane straps, the roof gets lifted off, the walls fall over, and your house is gone. So this thing is heavy duty concrete, solid foundation. There isn't anything that can lift off. The whole damn thing would have to go flying. That may not happen, but I think it's well positioned to be a defendable position from nature. The home was built using materials like rollable low carbon concrete and recycled materials. If you don't know about concrete, it actually is pretty bad for the world. It gives off a lot of CO2.
I guess this is a low carbon variety.
Yeah. When it's no longer needed, the materials can be reused or recycled. Yeah, I like this kind of stuff. Pardon me one second. Yeah, you should probably be talking while I'm coughing.
Okay, I've jotted that down.
Several startups have developed shelters for unhoused people. From prefab tiny home communities to 3D printed units, these solutions flex both creativity and current construction technology. But Wholesome and the Norman Foster Foundation have forged a different approach. They combine the brainpower of a famed architect with the building power of a sustainable construction company to create a sleek, eco-friendly concrete bunker with the power to shelter people long term. And we've actually talked about these kind of buildings before, these 3D printed or kind of mass produced tiny homes. I've always been a proponent of tiny homes. You can put more in a smaller, temporary but semi-permanent, a temporary to permanent situation where you have a large swath of land. You teach people how to live in these tiny homes. They have an actual residence, and it's a stepping stone to returning to the standard process of going. You now have a residence. You can go and apply for jobs. You can go to school. You can be retooled for a position. So it says you'll likely recognize famed architect Norman Foster's work, even if you aren't in the architecture or design industry. Stylish, but unique, simple. This actually looks like it's segmented. I don't know if it really is. Set out to create a home that could safely and comfortably house people who have been displaced long term. I guess you just roll it out and attach each one of the little segments, kind of, because it looks like corrugated cardboard, but it's cement. It does have some wood interior for framing, I suppose. The turtle shell shaped dome is comprised of materials like sheets of rollable concrete, low carbon concrete, efficient insulation, and recycled construction demolition materials, according to its builders. That's obviously just a piece of artwork there. But that isn't. It looks like it is temporary to long-term housing. It's a tiny home. I kind of dig it. It's the same approach that the University of Maine's Advanced Structures and Composites Center took with its first 3D printed tiny home built with encapsulated wood waste from sawmills. That's pretty cool stuff. I dig this by creating.
Yeah, it is. I wonder if they would use this in more temporary settings, like after a natural disaster.
Yeah, I can imagine that's exactly what they would be doing. The only problem that I see with this is that the interior elements look like they need a lot of hand holding. This isn't mass produced. This isn't flat pack,
Right.
To do this temporary to long-term temporary housing, and not suffer from timber framing houses, and still keep it low cost. All of this stuff would have to be what amounts to flat pack, easily constructed, no table saw needed, no heavy duty equipment needed. You basically just roll this thing up and put it to work. And this does not look like it's just set it up and go. So, but that's why I like 3D printed houses. You just set that printer up, it starts printing. There's 2 people instead of 30 people that are framing the house, with some supports for windows, the tops of windows and door frames, and doing a few plumbing things and gas and stuff like that. And it is there until you want to destroy it. Nothing's going anywhere. And then you can bring in furniture, but this looks like the furniture itself is part of the framing and internal support. And I don't think that really works, at least from my perspective, because looking at this, these are actually rooms, niches and whatnot that are inside that framing. If you're listening to this via the podcast, I wish I could just imagine. It looks kind of like an omelet. And and then there's rooms on the inside of the little arch of an omelet. You know how a standard French omelet is kind of puffy in the middle, and then gets thinner onto the sides, but it's thicker in the middle, right? Just imagine rooms being in that middle part and it's framed. That looks like it's all, 4 foot by 8 foot sheets of plywood, and then, or composite wood, and cut in place there at the site. That's too much heavy lifting. This stuff needs to get out and operational fast, and I don't see that happening. But I'm not actually doing it, so I'd have to look to see.
Well, and it also has like with this architect level, it almost seems like it's somewhat more for the aesthetic than the
functional aspect of it.
Function or efficiency. I mean, there's certainly good features with the low carbon footprint, etc.
Yeah. Rollable concrete, I think, is a beautiful idea, but the internal workings needs to be streamlined to something that's kind of just set it and forget it kind of a thing. The company aimed at bringing 3D printing construction tech to Africa is now using 3D printers to build 52 home community in Kenya, and that's what's up here. And this is the kind of construction that I would really appreciate, is that 3D printed. Here in the States, it would probably have to be at least 2 stories. That's kind of like the standard fare here in the States, which is the upstairs is standard living, and then down below like sleeping is up above, and then day-to-day stuff is down below. But they're starting at 600 square feet and about $27,660, which actually seems pretty expensive for a 3D printed house that's only 600 square feet in Kenya. I don't know.
Yeah, that does seem high.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's it. We'll keep on talking about this kind of stuff, like all the rest of the things that we've talked about today. We always monitor it, and then we periodically bring stuff back. So I hope you enjoyed the show. Like usual, we go back to the very front page of ohmTown, the welcome sign, mash that button, it refreshes, and then we parse it. Just the front page, just to see if there's anything interesting to talk about for tomorrow right off of that front page. Comic-Con 2023 schedule shrinks as Dune Part 2 and others are canceled due to SAG-AFTRA. Yeah, we'll have to talk about that tomorrow. That really sucks. Dune Part 2 has been canceled due to SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah, no, wait a second. That's at Comic-Con, which is crummy, but that's not the same as I thought you meant like the films.
The launch, right? No, the launch is done.
Right.
So they're not even going to do panels.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that's part of the promotion. So yeah, okay, I get it. It's part of the promotion. So wow, okay. 400 episodes and thriving.
Comic-Con if nobody can promote anything.
There's an interesting one, the Flophouse. This is something that I've watched. It's a podcast called the Flophouse. It talks about bad movies, and I think it's over on Maximum Fun. I'm not sure. Don't hold me to that. But yeah, it's a popular podcast, and only 400 episodes. We're close to 600. But we don't go in depth in any one particular topic. So Flophouse focuses on movies. I guess I should focus, right? If I want to make a living out of this, I need to focus. Is that it?
I suppose so.
Yeah. I have a hard time focusing on anything. Like I said, I love change. I like a dynamic environment. And that's why I've got hundreds of news sources that I parse every day. Let's see what else. Anything really interesting that's...
Well, there's something about the I don't see it on there, but it was the McDonald's tomato shortage. Oh, there it is. I was looking at
From
the
Indian
page
menus?
separately. Yeah, like they're having a massive tomato shortage.
Oh, really?
And the
Wow.
fact that McDonald's can't even get tomatoes is kind of a bad sign since they're such a major corporation.
What the hell, man? It's like one shortage after another. Ugh. Let's see if there's anything else.
Can Barbie be the new Iron Man in a Mattel universe?
Where's
Okay,
that?
that's kind of funny.
Yeah, we'll
Down
need
near the
that.
bottom.
Oh. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep that. Yeah, let's do that. If you're in chat and you see an article that you like, either send me a message in Twitch, so just whisper it to me, or send me an email, mayor@ohmTown.com. I get that, and I will include it if it fits. And if it's a news source outside of ohmTown, like you think that it would be a benefit to ohmTown, then send that source to us, and I'll parse it. But we may already have something already in place. It just doesn't necessarily provide a lot of news. That's it from the front page. Man's brain gets fried after suffering massive burns in Phoenix heat wave. Jeez, what is going on? Well, I know.
Apocalypse.
Yeah, it was so hot. I was out in the sun in ohmTown, and the sun was just pounding down, and you have to stay hydrated and you have to cover up, otherwise you pay the price. It was a nightmare trying to do work. I thought that it was going to be really fast, and I just pushed it too far in the sun. It was already, I think it was something like 96 or something like that. And I did it just spur of the moment, trying to get it done really fast, and it just drained all of my energy. It was horrible. Anyway, that's it for tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. I am Mayor Watt, without any backlighting other than that stuff right there. I'm supposed to have two other lights, but anyway, I should just move on, right?
This
I'm
is
Mayor
like
Watt.
After Dark or something.
ohmTown After Dark. That actually was one of the shows that I was spinning up. I'm Mayor Watt. That's ohmTown.com, and that's the AI that reminds me that I should probably just say goodnight. So good night, folks. You want to say goodnight too?
Sure. Good night, ohmTown citizens. We'll see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Take care, everybody. Bye bye.